How to stretch better for low back pain. So many of you out there are not sure which stretches to do, and many are doing the wrong stretches for their back, and they're making it worse. They're preventing themselves from healing, and they don't even know it. So instead of letting you stay stuck in the pain cycle, never seeming to find any relief, I'm going to teach you how to stretch better for low back pain so you can start learning what you're doing wrong so you can start to do it right, and you can finally achieve a pain-free life. My name is Dr. Grant Elliott, and we've helped thousands with low back pain, disc herniations, and sciatica fully recover through our one-on-one online coaching program. And we've seen and heard it all around the globe. So I'm going to teach you the most common mistakes we hear so that you can learn how to stretch better. So let's get right into it. The three most common stretches that people do when they experience low back pain or sciatica is simple stretching of the hamstring, stretching of the piriformis itself, and then usually trying to round that low back forward to try to find some relief. So I'm going to address the three most common mistakes with these types of stretches, and then other big picture principles that could potentially relate to your situation. Now, first, we need to understand that low back pain is the number-one disability in the world. Around 80% of people will experience low back pain at some point in their life, and it's responsible for around $100 billion in healthcare expenses on a yearly basis. So it's safe to say this is poorly managed, which is one of the number-one reasons we created this online program to meet so many people around the world who are having a hard time actually finding help. So the type of low back pain that I'm going to be speaking to the most is the most common type of low back pain, non-specific low back pain, which accounts for 90% of low back issues, which is typically a combination of muscle, joint, and disc pain. Now, within that, the most common type of low back issue or symptom is what we call a flexion intolerant lower back issue. What is a flexion intolerant issue? This is the type of person, and listen up, you might feel these symptoms, that notices whenever they bend forward to pick things off the ground or put on socks and shoes, that tends to be difficult. Sitting long periods at work or in the car does not feel good. Then maybe you've noticed when you do go to stand up after sitting a long time, you feel 80 years old standing up. It takes a few seconds to stand up straight. This is the most common type of low back pain that we work with. It's usually a little bit more associated with the disc, can sometimes push and hit a nerve and cause sciatica as well. And you might experience other symptoms too. You might notice the longer you stand, the more you feel it, and other variations, but this is the most common thing we hear. So as I address these three main stretches, hamstring, piriformis, and low back, it's focused on that type of circle, but I'm going to give you modifications for others at the end. So let's jump on the most common. If you are stretching your hamstrings because you think your hamstrings relate to your low back pain, and first, there's no evidence to support that. There's no evidence that proves that tight hamstrings cause low back pain. If you've been told that, that's a myth. You need to get with a different provider or a different program. But if you have this type of back pain, when you go to stretch your hamstrings, if you are doing so in a seated position, bending forward to try to touch your toes, or in a standing position, bending forward to try to touch your toes, yes, you're elongating your hamstrings, which doesn't really matter when it comes to back pain. It's not going to be a solution. There's no evidence to support that. But look at what your lower back is doing. Your lower back is pushing forward into a rounded position. And if you are someone who has a flexion intolerant low back, which most of you watching this do, that can simply exacerbate your symptoms. If you're getting too much flexion throughout the day, if you're already sitting too much, if you're already bending too much, and now you're doing more bending, you think you're stretching your hamstrings, but really you're just adding more of what you don't need. Now, if you have a disc issue to go with that, you notice coughing, sneezing, increases symptoms, that forward motion can increase pressure on the disc, which can make the disc worse and can hit the nerve more and cause more nerve pain too. Hey, real quick, I know you're struggling with pain and obviously want to fix it. So if you just text me the word pain to 317-751-9509, I will send you my free back pain fix demo. Just text that number and you can fix your pain. Thank me later. Back to the show. So instead of doing hamstring stretches this way, here's a couple really simple modifications. If you typically sit on the ground and bend forward to try to touch your toes, instead of bringing your upper body to your foot, bring your foot to you. So you can lay on your back, you can put a strap around your foot, and you can pull your leg up passively to try to stretch that hamstring. This is keeping your lower back in a flat, neutral position, not a rounded position, which will not increase pressure on the lower spine or the disc. You could also rest it on a wall so that you don't have to use a strap. And if you're in a standing position, you can perform a hinging type motion where instead of leaning forward, you can select your focused leg and you can push the hips straight back, kind of like you're performing an RDL or a single leg RDL. You can do this repetitively. This will help mobilize the hamstring without your lower back being compromised in a rounded position if that rounded position exacerbates your symptoms. Now for the piriformis stretching, my advice is going to be very, very similar. Most people, if you're sitting in a chair and doing a piriformis stretch, the classic one, you're going to be rounding your lower back. Most people do it this way. And yes, there's modifications to show hinging forward, and that is a better way to do it, but most people still get some low back flexion. Or they're sitting on the ground and they're bending forward or cramming themselves into a pigeon pose and just really rounding that lower back without realizing that that could be making their situation worse. So 2 modifications. If you're doing the seated one at work the most, instead of bringing your upper body forward towards the knee, once again, bring the knee to you. So get in that figure 4 position, focusing on whichever side you're attempting to, grab the knee and pull the knee to you while staying in a very tall, straight position and perform this repetitively. This does a better job at mobilizing the piriformis, and it also can serve as a sciatic nerve mobilizer as well. If you're usually doing this in a seated position on the ground, go to a wall. Put both legs on the wall, cross the focused leg over the other, and now slide your foot down the wall deeper and deeper so that focused side gets in a deeper piriformis stretch. Now when you're sitting here with a neutral spine, no low back rounding, you can push that knee down, continue to mobilize the piriformis, very similar to the previous variation. Both of these variations eliminate low back rounding and compromising your lower back once again, if that type of position flares you up and compromises you. Now, the last one is essentially an isolated component of both of these. Yes, the first one, you're focusing on your hamstrings. The second one, you're focusing on your piriformis. But most people, they just think, oh, I need to just round my back forward because it's the only stretch they know for their lower back. Low back is tight. Let me bend forward. Let me just try to open up that lower back. But once again, if you have a flexion intolerant issue, if you're sitting most of the day, if that's your primary position, if you're bending forward and you notice putting on socks and shoes hurts, you're just doing more of what your back doesn't like. You're giving it too much of the same thing. So you don't want to just bend yourself forward. You do not want to do that. Instead, you want to do the opposite. You want to do the exact opposite. If you're getting too much flexion, then you need to be doing extension. If sitting long periods hurts, and that's what you do most of the day, don't do more lumbar flexion. You have enough of it. You got to balance it out with the opposite. So a classic extension-based movement, you can just lay on your stomach, prop up on your elbows like you're watching TV, start to hang out in this position a little bit more throughout the day when you're, working on your phone or working on your computer, or if you're just resting at home watching TV, it's a great position to rest in. You can add some repetitions into this. You can turn it into a cobra type position where you put the hands under the shoulders, you push your chest up, work into this more. Give yourself the opposite of the tension and the stress you're getting too much of throughout the day. So this is where it can kind of turn to a principle, because thousands of people are watching this and you might be in a different situation. So if you are in that category of sitting most of the day, bending most of the day, if you're low back, think about it. What position is your low back in most of the day? If you're in flexion most of the day, then you need to be doing the opposite motions. Now, if you're someone who's on your feet most of the day, or you're in extension most of the day, like we have some clients who are hairdressers, dental hygienists, painters, various positions, painters especially. If you're standing in an extended position most of the day, then you might not want to do extension. You might want to do flexion. You might want to focus on a knees to chest type exercise where you're getting yourself the opposite of extension. You could lay on your back, grab your knees, pull them to your chest. You could sit in a chair, bend forward, grab your ankles, and pull yourself further. The concept here, what you need to understand is that think about, what does your back get the most of? And if you have back pain, just start to do the opposite to equalize the stress. It's such a key principle, and this can relate to many other joints and aches and pains too. Your neck, shoulders, hips, knees, all these different things this can relate to. Now, one main caveat I have not brought up. If you have sciatica and you have nerve tension, the modifications I showed you are still going to flare up your sciatica. It's still going to happen. Any form of the hamstring being stretched or the glute being stretched is putting the nerve on more stretch, and a sensitive nerve does not want to be stretched. So You might be thinking, hey, these modifications are better for my lower back, but it doesn't really matter the position that my back is in. If my leg is stretching, man, that sciatica feels worse. And if you're saying that, then you're like our most common client. A lot of people with sciatica, they go to standardized clinics and they're just stretching their hamstring, stretching their piriformis, and they just feel worse and they just flare up every single time. So you don't want to be doing stretches at all for your hamstring or piriformis. You want to be focused on where those symptoms are coming from, which is the lower back. So then once again, you'd want to think, okay, what position is my lower back in the most throughout the day? Do the opposite. Whether that's extension or flexion, do the opposite. That's what's going to help you start to reduce your sciatica symptoms without stretching. Because remember, sciatica is a back problem, not a leg problem. The leg is where the symptoms are, but the back is where the issue is. So this video has taught you how to understand what positions your back is in, the type of stretches you should be doing, and how to modify them a little bit better. But the one thing it has not provided you is an actual plan specific to you, because this video could help many of you just have some light bulbs and totally change the way you're stretching, and you could see relief. But you're still not walking away from this video without an actual structured plan specific to you. And so many people are just guessing with random videos, or they've been following me forever and they see hundreds of videos and they're not sure which ones to do. And if that's you, then I have something for you. And this thing and what I have for you could totally change the game and has helped some people see as much as 37% reduction in their pain within one session, and others get completely pain-free within as little as 15 days. And this is our centralization process. So if you want to dive deeper with me and actually get a structured plan to healing through this process, then all you need to do is text me the word pain to 317-751-9509. to get a tailored step-by-step plan to permanently fix your back or sciatica using our centralization process. Do it right now so you don't miss the opportunity to finally get pain-free and live the life that you deserve, because you only have one life and you don't deserve to live it in pain. And after you do that, please like the video, subscribe if you haven't already. Follow me on Instagram at RehabFix for more free daily videos and getting an insight into my life and what I'm doing to maintain a bulletproof back. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you on the next one, and I'll see some of you in our program real soon.